Welcome to the first episode of the Operators Only podcast. I'm your host, Cody Gilbert. What's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of the Operators Only podcast. Again, I'm your host, Cody Gilbert. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been a long time coming. Again, this is our first episode. Going to be a lot of kinks. The audio might not be right. The quality of the video might not be right. Just like that. Who does that? Rookie mistake. I do apologize, but you got to start somewhere, and that's my plan. I want to grow and expand this podcast. I have on guests in the future. That's already in the works, actually. Talking to some people and getting that lined up. Just to kind of preface as to why I started this podcast, I just wanted a long form platform to be able to speak about things in the industry, more so than just heavy equipment or dirt work or blue collar trades or anything like that. Just more so you can talk about mental health, physical health, what's going on in the world, what you might have going on in your life. And this is me talking to you as maybe one of my guests in the future. We can squash those things right here on the podcast. So that's just a couple of the reasons I started this podcast. Again, was a long form platform to be able to speak on things. And I get questions all the time on Instagram that I can't really answer by typing out a message. So this gives me a much better way to explain them in my own words. So that way it can be taken exactly as I mean it to be taken. Also, I want to give a big shout out to the Dirtbags podcast. They had me on, Luke and Luke. Super great guys. They got a really good show. Go check them out on YouTube and anywhere that you get your podcasts. They had me on a while back. They asked me a really good question. Luke, they're both Luke, but Luke, Phaser Marketing Luke, he asked me a question. He said, do you see any shimmery, shiny objects in your future or on your journey? Meaning, do I have anything else planned aside from making content on Instagram, maybe a podcast in the future? And here we are. This podcast has been in the works for well over a year. I bought a bunch of stuff, banners, equipment, this mic, all that good stuff, in hopes to start this thing like a year ago, and got lazy, got busy, and didn't. But I got a inspirational nerve, a creative nerve that kicked in, and I've been thinking about this for a while, and we're going to give it a shot. Also want to give a big shout out to our sponsors for this podcast. Absolutely nobody, because I think I have one subscriber on YouTube and no one even knows this thing exists yet. So I'm going to need your guys' help. Again, if you would, please like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram, Operators Only Pod, and also follow me on Instagram at Official Dirt Gang. So yeah, shout out to the sponsors. Again, this podcast it's going to be more than just normal dirt work talk. Mental health, physical health, life goals. Again, what's going on in the world, or new technology in our industry, what's popping in our industry, what's popping in general around the blue collar trades. A lot of talk about education. I know college versus trades is a big toss up discussion right now. I'd love to dive into that with somebody, and I think it would be fun. So that is definitely something in the future. So I took a poll on all my social medias this past week or so, and asking questions that you guys might want answered on the first episode of the Operators Only podcast, which we are fixing to do right now. I have 4 questions I picked. I had a lot more, but a lot of them were repetitive questions. So I picked the most asked ones, and I'm going to give each individual a shout out. You can go check them out on social media and give them some love as well. Again, I have 4 questions, and we're going to start with number 1 right now. question number one, how did y'all get started, and what advice can you give a guy that's trying to get established in the industry? And that is from P Yates_6.7 on Instagram. Thank you for the question. And to preface the question, how did y'all get started? Meaning, me and my dad started a grading company, construction company, about a year and a half ago. We were recently employed by a much larger company. And when I say larger, I mean super big. And we kind of just casted all of our cards on the table and took a leap. My dad was there for probably 13 or 15 years or something like that. He was a superintendent, supervisor, or whatever. And I worked there under him as an operator. But we started our own business. And how we got started was, it was more of a thought and a dream. Actually never thought it would be a reality. And it's crazy how life works, because that thing literally just landed in our lap. And I mean, it just all went by so quick. Like right now, you just kind of, it's like we stop and look and we're like, oh, wow, we're really doing this. And we really are doing this. It was scary at first, but looking back, I'm super glad I did it. The freedom you get, and there's no dollar amount that you can place on the freedom you get of being your own boss. Now, obviously, you're going to work a lot more, but you're the boss, and it feels good. A lot more to manage, but you got to pay to play, I guess. So again, it was just a thought, and then we discussed it for years and years and years. And it started out, we was just going to be a dump trucking company, hauling material around to other contractors in our area. We started with 2 Kenworth T800 dump trucks, identical trucks, 2006 models, 8 speeds, tri-axle dump trucks, and that was what we was going to do. And it quickly evolved into way more than that. We now have 3 excavators, 3 dozers, 953C track loader. Again, those dump trucks. I'm missing something. D5, D6, 320, 317, a Sani, the track loader. That might be it. But a good slew for us. That's a good bit of equipment. That's already more than we had planned for, but the work calls for it, and that's a good thing. And we had to adapt and overcome, and that's what we did. Obviously, basic beginner steps on how we got started: file an LLC. You own the name and rights to that company. Go get your EIN number so Uncle Sam can get his cut, because that's what they're going to do. And then you're going to want to get you a business bank account. And at that point is when you can decide whether you want to buy some equipment outright, some old used equipment to get started with, or if you want to finance some newer equipment, which is, in my opinion, easier, because when you have newer equipment, and they're very good with service, because I promise you're going to need some help, and there's something going to break when you don't need it to break. And with the right person, Caterpillar, what? Yeah, Cat's the best. With them, you get the best customer service, in my opinion, when you're in a pickle, and you'll be in a pickle, I promise. And then from that point, you just kind of, what I would do is, I would go ahead and kind of campaign that you was going to start a business like this, and get some work lined up, because you don't want to go into it empty-handed. So you get your work lined up, get your equipment bought, and get started. And insurance, go ahead and get you like a fuel account set up. What else? Workman's comp, you're going to need that. You'll learn as it comes, I promise. You just kind of learn in strides. But to get started, LLC, EIN, bank account, go get it, Tiger. Question number 2 from Braden M80 on Instagram. Thank you for your question. How did you get started as an operator? And it's a really funny story. I never even in a million years thought I'd be doing what I'm doing right now. And I don't think anybody is. But in the beginning, I wanted to be a artist. I drew a lot as a kid. I still have that creative bone in my body here at 27 years old. I just had a birthday the beginning of the month, November the 3rd. Yay, still alive. Thank you, Jesus. But I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to draw caricatures, I think is what you called it. Cartoon characters. That was a kid dream though. And then I grew up wanting to play baseball. I did for a long time. Grew out of that. And then in my teenage years, I had a friend, still do, one of my best friends, actually one of my brothers, technically. He joined a fire department, our community fire department, as a junior firefighter. And I made fun of him for so long for doing that until I did it. I joined at 15 years old, and I was there as a junior firefighter for 3 years until I turned 18, where I became a senior firefighter. And in that 3-year gap from 15 to 18, I was in college taking fire classes. So that way, when I became a senior firefighter, I was already certified. I didn't have to do all that after the fact. So I had a head start, and then I became a paid firefighter. I was in EMT school, did that, and ran a bunch of crazy calls as a firefighter. Seen some stuff that I pray no one has to see. I had to do some things that I pray no one has to do. And it really messes with you. And I'm kind of glad that it didn't work out because at a young age like that, I don't think my brain was really prepared for what I saw. So my hats is off to all of our first responders, military. I know what you guys see, not the military side of it, but first responders. I've seen it firsthand myself, and it is not cool. But I did love the aspect of helping people. I still do. But and then the fire department thing didn't work out because I broke my right hand. I have 3 plates and 18 screws, and I don't have a really cool story as to why I broke it. It was a young, dumb decision I made. And then I made another dumb decision literally a year after I broke this hand and got over it and got healed up. I broke this hand. I broke this bone right here. There's no metal in this hand. But that kind of put me in a dark spot in my life, and I was really depressed for a long time. And I obviously couldn't work. So it was tough, and got through that. And at that point, I was working some dead end jobs that I knew wasn't going to be my forever career. And then I started with my dad at the last company we was at about 18, 19 years old. And I went into that thinking that I was going to be an operator out of the gate. And I didn't even know what an operator was at this point in my life. And so I went in. It was started in March of 2015, maybe 2016, somewhere along in there. And first day, I thought I was going to go run some equipment. Negative. It was like 29 degrees that morning, and we was putting in slope drains. I don't know if anyone's ever put in a slope drain. It's just like a big old long corrugated plastic pipe that comes off of a slope, where you have like a flat spot on top, and then you have slopes coming off. You probably have a silt pond at the bottom of the slope where the water can escape from here and get into that pond without eroding everything around it. So you contain it into that pipe slope drain. We was driving T-post and make an X and put wire around them to hold the pipe on the ground and whatnot. We was doing that, and it was like 29 degrees, and I was already hating my life at that point. And then I had to go shovel tracks. Never shoveled tracks in my life, didn't know what I was expecting. And then you got all these old heads coming up, clean them tracks, boy, clean them tracks. And I'm like, who are you, bro? And then, but I stuck with it, worked my way up, got into a articulating dump truck. I call them off-road trucks, and learned that. And then I moved up and got a shot at an excavator, but sucked at it for a long time. And then got pulled back out, put in the truck again, and contemplated life. And then I got put back in the excavator. This time I knew I was going to make it right. And I was going to learn what I needed to learn to stay in it. So I did. And then from that point on, I ran that thing for years. and then obviously some other equipment, rollers, uh, all the unimportant, boring, or important but boring jobs out there in the field. I never had the opportunity to run a dozer for the longest time. And then um, one of the guys on my crew got moved up to foreman, and I took his spot on the GPS dozer. And granted, again, I had never had any experience on a dozer. And in what we do and what we specialize in, the GPS dozer, man, is pretty much a mobile set of plans. And you have the job in your machine that where cut is, where fill is, where utilities may go, where ditches. It's all in that model on that dozer. So I got to learn all of that, plus running how to run a bulldozer all at the same time. And it took me a good while to get a grasp on it. But finally, now I'm at the point where I'm pretty dependable. You can count on me to do what you need done with that machine. Not the best by no means. I have a lot to learn. I've seen some really good operators, some really old head, seasoned operators that has taught me a lot. But I've still got many years to get to that point, and I'm not rushing it. I'm enjoying the ride. So all you haters out there who's going to be like, you ain't no operator, you just a kid. I know. I never said I was the best. I just said I'm dependable. I'll be there. Promise. I'll give it a valiant effort. I'll tell you that right now. So started completely different than what I thought, or completely different than what I thought it would. I had a completely different game plan in my head as a kid versus where I am now. Now I'm half owner of a company, and it's crazy. I thank the good Lord up above for the blessing that He's given me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't His plan, obviously. So big shout out to Jesus. Thank you for that. Moving on to question number 3. This is from DirtDoctor_21 on Instagram. Thank you for your question. Question for the podcast: how do you determine if a new hire operator is operator material? That's a good question. We actually had something happen a couple weeks ago. Literally perfect example for this question. I normally base new hires off of their personality first and foremost, because you can tell how someone's going to be. I guess if someone comes in and says, hey boss, I'll do whatever you need me to do. I'm just here to make a living for my family. They're probably going to last a good while. But if you have someone coming in and say, hey, I'm a track co-operator, or I'm a dozer operator, and that's all I run, that's when you put them on the machine and they pretty much fail. They just never cut the mustard in my past experience. Everyone's cocky, and I really think I've cracked the code as to how that stuff works. They start somewhere, and then I guess everyone thinks that being the operator is, the cool whatever, but sometimes it ain't. I don't know. It's just cold hard truth. Sometimes I'd rather drive a water truck and watch TikToks all day, but here I am. Anyway, you can tell someone off their personality and how they come in and how they carry themselves. Their first impression tells you everything you need to know normally. And then you put them on the equipment, and they, like I said, they fail horribly. But we had a guy a couple weeks ago said he was a excavator operator. Literally pulled up on the job site, seen us from the interstate, come over to our job site, seen if we was hiring, because he literally quit his job that day, which was super ironic in my opinion. But anyway, he was a track co-operator, he said. So went and did his paperwork and all that good stuff. He came back, and again, we didn't, like the company I own, we didn't hire him. We're partnered with another company doing a commercial job. The people we're partnered with hired him, but this is their employee. Anyway, did his paperwork, all that good stuff, come out to the job, and we was like, hey, we was loading out just like a stockpile. It wasn't even like a cut or nothing like that, but we wasn't even pulling grade. We was just moving some material out of the way, and it was perfectly set up stockpile cut. Like all he had to do was hop up on top, start a cut, load the truck. First and foremost, he came in there. He had his sprockets forward and his idlers in the back. He was having the trucks back into him head first. I don't even know. He said he was a pipe layer before. I'm not a pipe guy. I've worked with some pipe people, and he didn't get full buckets. He was loading extremely slow. It was just a gommed up mess. And I knew it right then and there, and everyone else knew that he was not cutting the mustard. But when he showed up, he was an operator. He'd done this for 74. He done this for about 74 years is what he did. He's done it his whole life, brother. I'll tell you right now, he's the best operator that there ever was. That was his resume. But he shortly and rapidly proved that to be extremely false. And he worked there about a day, and we didn't even have to worry about it anymore. He was gone. He never came back. So yeah, I think he realized that he lied on his resume, and he did not come back. And so you can tell how someone is by their, first of all, their initial first impression, and then you make them cut the mustard. And if they don't cut the mustard, it'll happen extremely fast. So there's that one. Moving on to question number 4, and this is from my friend Frankie over at Trade Hounds. If you don't have that app, please download that app. This is not a paid promotion. Again, like I said earlier in the beginning of the podcast, no sponsors for this podcast. This is just a super good app for blue collar people like us. It's like Instagram, but for the trades. There's no, politics, big celebrities or nothing like that. It's us guys. You have a profile and you can post your work. You can communicate with other people and talk about the trades. And it's not just dirt work. It is everything: plumbing, welding, electrical, landscaping, obviously dirt work, all trades. Everything you can think of is on that app, and it's super cool. I'll post the link in the description along with all my other social media. But this is Frankie from Trade Hounds. His question is, what's the best way to get into being an operator like yourself as a young gun / new person in the trades? It's a lot like question number 2, but I think this is more of a general question as for a lay person, civilian. I guess we're all civilians, but as a non-trades person, how do you get into this type of work? And for me, it was just I knew a guy, my dad, and but mainly just I'm sure there's a company near you that is doing the type of work that you want to do. And it might not even be dirt work, masonry, like electrical, a lot of stuff you have to have a degree for or go to, have certifications. But where I'm at here in North Carolina, you do not have to have any certifications to be a heavy equipment operator. Just a driver's license and some common sense and open-mindedness, open ears, and stuff like that. But no, you can just look around in your local area for contractors that do the type of work you want to do. And you're obviously going to have to start from the bottom. And I suggest you start from the bottom because I think you get a better grasp of the job from that standpoint. And I think you respect it better as you progress, because you can look back and know that you was in that person's position at one point in your life, and you'll be more apt to help them learn and grow. Because, as when you started, that's what you wanted, was someone to help you. And I think that's what we should all do, in my opinion, is help the next generation. Because if you truly love the trades, which I do, and I love our craft in general, I take pride in it. I want people, because it's really a dying breed. I want people to carry this on and teach. Like my son, he's 1 year old right now, but I want to bring him up in this stuff. If that's and he might have a completely different, game plan of what he wants to do for a living, but it's family business, and hopefully he takes up with it and does good with it. But I want to get him started early so he can have a jump start on stuff. But yeah, just start from the bottom, in my opinion. find a local company that's doing what you want to do, put in your application, and enjoy the ride. That's what I've always said. It's about the journey, not the destination. And enjoy it, I promise, because life is short, and I don't think people realize that enough, that life is super short and you only have one of them to live. So do what you want to do. If it ain't trade work, don't do trade work. Go do something else. If my dream job, honestly, would be a videographer or something of that nature, because I'm a super creative person and I like making videos and stuff. But I love opera. I mean, it's all I know. I asked myself the other day, I asked some of my friends actually, what would you do if you didn't do this? And they couldn't answer it, and neither could I. I would probably be like a cop or something. I don't know. That'd be pretty fun, wouldn't it? I know a lot of cops. A lot of my friends are cops. I probably would have joined the military, something of that nature. I don't know what I would do if I wasn't a heavy equipment operator, but and I know there's so many people out there with different viewpoints as to what an operator is. They will like the egos of people on social media when it comes to the trades is ridiculous. I just want y'all to know that. You look like a bunch of 2-year-olds. What you really should be doing is helping the next generation and get the chip off your shoulder and learn something. You can learn something from teaching someone. I just want you to know that. You can learn how to be a leader and not an instigator and a Debbie Downer like a lot of you guys are. Shout out to the haters. But yeah, that's all I got for episode number 1, guys. Obviously, there's no guest. Like I said, that's coming in the future. I'm talking to people right now as we speak on Instagram and stuff, trying to get those things lined up and get that popping, get some guests on here, some different viewpoints, different aspects, different conversations. I think it'll be a great time. Again, if you are not subscribed, which I know you are not because this is a brand new channel, please click that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications when we post new episodes. Like this video. And if you don't care, comment down below some questions you would like to see answered on episode number 2, because it may be a solo, it may not. And even if it isn't a solo and we have a guest, I'll ask the guest those questions and we can get both mine and the guest's viewpoints on those questions. I think that would be a pretty cool segment to do. So yeah, that's episode number 1. Follow me on all social media, Operators Only Pod, Official Dirt Gang on Instagram and TikTok. And yeah, peace.